Kentucky Derby. Kentucky Derby.
Now they move around the turn. The leader, Warabno, 2.5 for 3.
That's what day it is in the center of the racetrack. Seattle Sloop drawing alongside again.
Warabno is still there. Warabno is pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, the French Lake Common the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Lion Hunt is all Hunt. Smarty Jones is all up. And here's the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slow of 1976.
5 days until the Kentucky Derby presented by Woodford Reserve, just hours away from the final piece of the puzzle falling into place with the draw show. 3 days of training remaining that we'll be bringing to you live. It's the morning workouts presented by TwinSpires.com, and an absolutely picture-perfect morning here at TwinSpires. We had a full moon, welcome the dawn. It's in the mid-60s. There's a very light breeze. Track conditions are fast. Absolutely gorgeous here at Churchill Downs. Let's take a look at the headlines. 5-2 morning line favorite Malatot drew post 10 for the Kentucky Oaks. The Longines Oaks has a full field of 14 3-year-old fillies going a mile and an eighth. That's on Friday, Kentucky Derby Eve. Hall of Fame trainer Steve Asmussen puts the finishing touches on Midnight Bourbon with the Monday Breeze. He also has Superstock as the Hall of Fame trainer looks for his first Derby win, and he'll fire 2 bullets at it. Brooklyn Strong, the Remsen Stakes winner, a Derby go. Following a Monday work at Parks, he was the last of 2 workers, along with the aforementioned Midnight Bourbon. Brooklyn Strong will arrive shortly. And as I said at the top, the Kentucky Derby post-position draw presented by Ford this morning at 10:45. A full field of 20 expected for the Run for the Roses. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ed DeRosa, joined by Scott Shapiro, and I was going to comment on our fashion sense, Scott, but you covered up the shirt, but we're both looking good, and we got to be feeling good with this weather just 5 days out.
Not often people talk about my fashion, Ed, so I appreciate you bringing it up. But, yeah, Champions Day today, the Derby draw today, the Oaks draw yesterday. Picture perfect day here under the Twin Spires. Can we maybe keep this weather around for the next 5 days?
I'd love it. I'd sign up for it. I can't imagine anyone else wouldn't either, unless they absolutely know their horse is going to improve in the slop. We have a third member of our team, Scott, and that is James Scully, high atop the grandstand here at Churchill Downs. James, you got to be loving this weather even more. You're out in it.
Oh, I am. Good morning, Ed. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Kentucky Derby fans. It's great to be up here on the 4th floor balcony at Churchill Downs. Have a great view of the racetrack. It's really crunch time now, Ed. We're getting close to the big races. The trainers, human connections of these horses, just trying to keep them happy, healthy, feeling good going into the big races. We'll have plenty to talk about. Should be a fun hour, Ed.
Yeah, we have a couple, the workout from yesterday to get through, etc. We also have some social media interaction that we're looking forward to throughout the show in these final few episodes. Get us your questions at Kentucky Derby on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Wherever you're watching us, we can take your questions, and it's always a good chat with that. And, Scott, this is the last time we're going to look at the Derby points leaders, because after today, it's going to be the Kentucky Derby field. We'll see if there are any surprises. Eagerly awaiting that text from Ben Huffman about the actual final entries for the Derby. But in the meantime, here's our top 20.
Yeah, we've had a lot of juggling, but not up top. Essential Quality's been there for a long time. Hot Rod Charlie as well. You see Brad Cox bookending the top 10 with Essential Quality, and Mandaloon, who continues to look good in the mornings.
Here's that back half of the field expected to draw today. Again, a full field in that new starting gate. Brooklyn Strong, our last one in.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Brooklyn Strong, who has a big number in the aforementioned Remsen. Didn't run all that well in his return race, but glad to see him get into the field.
Brooklyn Strong Helium Exacto would be my kryptonite for sure, given my Remsen and Tampa Bay Derby disdain. Let's take a look at one of those contenders. That's Midnight Bourbon. Really, to me, Scott, a prototypical old-school Derby-type horse. Good 2-year-old form, improving at 3.
Yeah, lots to like here. Never been off the board in 7 lifetime tries, including a runner-up effort in the Iroquois to sitting on go in his only start under the Twin Spires. Besting the field of 20, Ed, seems a lot to ask of this horse, but he does come off a career-best thoroughbred figure, and it sounds like they're going to at least be aggressive out of the gate and try to find a prominent position.
And here he is on the main track Monday morning for his final Kentucky Derby work. And James, a lot of chatter over the course of the last week or so with Cattle River in, out, Rock Your World, who's going to be on the lead. Midnight Bourbon, potentially a pace threat.
He certainly is, Ed, and I like the addition of Mike Smith aboard Midnight Bourbon. I think he's going to show speed from the gate with the Hall of Fame two-time Kentucky Derby winning jockey. He's just trained great here at Churchill Downs over the recent weeks. Back-to-back 5-furlong Bullet Works before that 5-furlong move yesterday. He's a horse that would have to keep moving forward, it seemed on paper, to win the Derby. It appears he's doing that, peaking right now for Steve Asmussen.
Scott, do you think this is the type of horse that takes Mike to the lead, or is he going to have to make a move some point in the race?
It's a good point, a good question, Ed. I think he's going to be pretty quick out of the gate. He's been eager. He's working alone here, which suggests that he doesn't need a workmate, so he's ready to go. We saw him act up a little bit last week back there, so he seems to be ready. I would assume if he gets out of the gate well, he'll take Mike to where he wants to be.
All right, Midnight Bourbon, one of two for Racing Hall of Fame trainer Steve Asmussen, looking for his first Kentucky Derby win. He's knocked on the door 4 times, Scott. 2 of those third-place finishers went on to be Horses of the Year.
Yeah, pretty good ones. Gun Runner, Horse of the Year in 2017, and Breeders' Cup Classic winner in Curlin, who won the Breeders' Cup Classic in 2007. He's also won a pair of Kentucky Oaks races with Summerlee in 2005 and Untappable with our girl Rosie in 2014.
He has some Oaks looks as well, as he looks to be the first trainer since 1952 to sweep the Oaks Derby double. Another conditioner with that possibility is Robertino Diodoro as Ava's Grace in the Oaks. Keep me in mind in the Derby, and keep me in mind sort of the opposite pace situation as Midnight Bourbon figures to be a deep closer over this 1.25 miles. Robertino, we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Good morning, guys.
I have to think with all that went on earlier this year, the schedule changes at Oaklawn, et cetera, you have to be glad that you made the Derby gate, and third off the layoff, some improvement gets you in the mix.
Yeah, no, definitely we're happy, and like you said, we got a little lucky, getting in, but things work out for a reason.
Robertino, Scott Shapiro, keep me in mind's work on Friday was a quick one. It was 4 furlongs and 46-1. How did your colt come out of that drill?
Very well. We were real happy with the work and the way he come out of it, so no, we're very happy with him right now.
Robertino, this is James Scully. I wanted to ask you about Ava's Grace. She's shown good speed in her last 3 starts. A lightly raced filly set the pace in the Fantasy. Wanted to know, do you think she'll be setting the pace in the Oaks, and how's she doing coming into the race?
No, she's doing very well. I think she'll be very forwardly placed. We don't necessarily need to be on the lead, but the speed's on the inside of us. We're real happy with the post we drew, but like I said, if she's not on the lead, she'll be very close to it.
We taking a look at Ava's Grace and her 4 furlong workout, Robertino. Interesting, they have a front runner in the Oaks and a closer in the Derby. Have you talked with David about how far back you think Keep Me in Mind will be in the Derby, and when at this 1.25 mile distance you expect him to ask him for his run?
We've talked about it a little bit. I think in the Bluegrass we took him out of his element, asking him to lay a little bit closer. If he's 15-20 out of it, I'd be more than happy. I think one big run with this horse and let him run his own the first part of the race. We're going to make an equipment change with him and take the blinkers off him for Saturday, so just get him to relax a little bit.
Well, we have racing today here, Champions Day, Robertino, and you have the morning line favorite Lone Rock in today's Isaac Murphy Marathon. He had a great Oaklawn meet. How do you feel about his chances today?
The horse is doing great. He's just getting better and better right now, and he's settled in here quite well, so we're pretty excited about today.
Robertino, we'll let you get back to it. It's a busy week starting with stakes action today, of course, the Oaks Derby. One last question, though. What's this first experience for you like with Oaks and Derby starters?
Not going to lie, dream come true, and I think our whole team deserves it, and we're pretty excited to be here and very fortunate.
All right, well, we're excited to have you. Really appreciate your time. That's trainer Robertino Diodoro, well represented in the stakes all through Derby week. It's Champions Day today. Lone Rock for him in the feature, and then Oaks Derby starters later this week. Thank you, Robertino, for that. And we're ping-ponging back and forth, Scott, between pace and closers. Midnight Bourbon to Keep Me in Mind. Now we're back on the front end with Rock Your World.
Yeah, front-running winner in the Santa Anita Derby. You don't often see horses that are 2 for 2 on the turf move to the dirt in a grade 1 race and take a significant step forward in terms of figures and performance ratings. But that's what Rock Your World did. We'll see if he's on the lead or just off the pace. Not sure he needs to have it in the Kentucky Derby, but if he has it, he might be dangerous.
Absolutely dangerous on the front end. And here's our first look at Rock Your World. He worked this past weekend at the great race place Santa Anita in Southern California. And James, the late great, our friend John Asher, always extolled the virtues of turf horses on this main track. And here's Rock Your World getting a feel for it.
Yes, he did. Always, pointed that out. Horses that like turf tend to run well on the main track at Churchill. Some of them do. Rock Your World worked, like you said, Ed, Saturday. He shipped Sunday. Really just came out, got to look at the surface, the surroundings. Expect him to do a little bit more galloping this morning and tomorrow. And, that Santa Anita Derby race, he was so convincing that a lot of people think he's just going to carry that form forward. The big concern is his inexperience. We saw earlier Curlin ran third in the Derby with only 3 starts. Only 2 horses, Big Brown and Justify, have won the Kentucky Derby in their 4th career start in modern era.
And here to talk about some of that turf form and Rock Your World in general is his trainer, John Sadler.
He started out on the grass because he's bred to run on both surfaces or multi-surfaces. So we started him out there. We thought it'd be a little easier route to go, and won his first start. Then came back and had a lot of trouble in his second start and still won pretty impressive. So then we decided, the time to try the big race was the Santa Anita Derby, because if you're good enough in the Santa Anita Derby, you can go on. So he took that step very nicely and ran really well. So, here we are. You have some history with a couple of the Derby winners running on grass. I'm thinking Barbaro and I'm thinking Animal Kingdom. But I think this horse probably, the thinking is he can run on any surface.
John Sadler looking for his first Kentucky Derby win. Quite a few trainers in this year's tilt in that boat, Scott. And here are his 4 starters. Yet to hit the board, but John got a big signature win here at Churchill Downs in 2018.
Yeah, that was with Accelerate winning the Breeders' Cup Classic, going on to win Horse of the Year. I got to follow John quite a bit with my time in Southern California. Very capable trainer. Has had a number of top runners other than Accelerate. He had Stellar Wind, Catalina Cruiser. But as you can see, Corby, his best finish is 6th, and that was when Sea Hero won it.
And John Sadler, one of several trainers shipping here from the Derby from California. I believe they got a ride share with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile runner-up Hot Rod Charlie, who got his first taste of the track on Monday, Scott. And this one served some notice, shipping east and winning the Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, and he did so in surprising front-running fashion. Like Essential Quality, the prohibitive favorite likely in the Kentucky Derby, he has shown versatility. He's won on the lead. He's won from off the pace, or been very competitive from off the pace. A couple concerns, though. His lack of development in terms of thorograph numbers is a bit concerning to me. And he struggled to get out of the gate. Even in his wire-to-wire win, he was taken to the lead but didn't pop the gate. That won't work come Saturday afternoon.
James, here he is on the track for the first time, the Churchill Downs track anyway. Hot Rod Charlie, and you mentioned earlier he had worked the same day as Rock Your World and chipped in with his Southern California compatriots.
Yes, and Doug O'Neill is 2 for 6 in the Kentucky Derby. His 2 previous winners, one of them, Nyquist, was favored in 2016, but I'll have another in 2012, went off 15-1, so he knows how to get a long shot ready for the race. Hot Rod Charlie won't be a long shot. He's coming in off a 2-length win in Louisiana Derby. I liked how he moved forward off the Robert Lewis into that race. Thought he won pretty comfortably. Showed good 2-year-old class, running second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. If he runs his race for O'Neill on Saturday, he should be right in the mix at the wire, I think, Ed.
Doug O'Neill and Todd Pletcher, 2 Derby trainers this year, nominated to the Racing Hall of Fame. If it's not Doug's year for a hall call, certainly would think a 3rd Derby win would get the job done later. And here is the 2-time Derby winning conditioner.
I think the way to turn the tables on Essential Quality is just, you got to get lucky, right? 20 horses, the best 3-year-olds in the world showing up. You just got to get a good, clean trip. And, I think we showed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile that we can compete with Essential Quality. And, now we're a bigger, stronger version of ourselves. So hopefully that'll help as well. But I think the biggest thing for everyone in a race like the Kentucky Derby is just getting a good, clean trip and having a little bit of luck. He's kind of tall and lanky, and he's really light on his feet. So I think he's a horse that no matter what surface he's running on, with a good, clean trip, he's just I don't think he has to take any certain type of surface with him. I think he can handle most surfaces, so we'll see how it looks here May 1st, but we're optimistic that however the surface is, he'll be okay with it.
From one two-time Derby winning trainer to another, Scott, Todd Pletcher, no disrespect to Doug, but Todd, I would have to think a certain Hall of Famer this year.
Yeah, pretty good resume and pretty good foursome coming into this year's Derby. There you see Bourbon likely to be probably the longest shot of the bunch. He was a huge price in the Wood Memorial. He reminds me a little of Charismatic, Ed, in the fact that people were quick to dismiss him on first and second look because he needed to drop into maiden claimers to get his first win. But he comes into the race the right way. He's moved forward with the addition of blinkers. He'll be running on late.
He certainly will. It'll be interesting to see where he and Keep Me in Mind are in the early stages of the race and who makes the first move. Kendrick Carmouche will be aboard Bourbonic. Here he is on the main track, James, and certainly some work to do in the Derby, but he did win his final prep, and that's been key in the points era.
Yeah, and one thing about that final prep was Kendrick Carmouche didn't even start riding him until they were entering the stretch. He was dead last through the far turn. It'll be interesting to see how far back he will be. I mean, I would think he's going to be 20th. Keep Me in Mind might be 19th, and they could be 20-plus lengths back. Going to make one run from off the pace. His improving form is an attribute, but definitely going to have to run faster than he did in his final prep and continue to step up in class.
A few of these horses, we know where they're going to be, whether it's on the front end or like Bourbonic, and Keep Me in Mind on the back end. Sainthood may be a little more interesting regarding where this one will make his move mid-pack. Close furiously to get second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes.
Yeah, that was an interesting trip that day. Actually found a prominent spot along the inside. I would expect him to be along the inside with Corey Lannery taking the call. He has some tactical speed. He's shown the ability to overcome adversity. He did so in that Jeff Ruby Stakes running second. But otherwise, lack of experience, his performance ratings and speed figures suggest to me he's up against it on Saturday.
Here's one of those four Pletcher trainees for the Derby on the track on April 26th. And James, Sainthood seems to be one that's turned a few heads with his morning appearances.
He really has, and Brandon talked about just being impressed by how he's looked and trained and considering him for underneath in exotics. And, you know, definitely a horse, you know, there's a lot of them in this year's Derby that are in that mix. I don't think that with only 3 career starts, you know, and only having a maiden win, that he'll be good enough to win the Derby. But if he runs his race, nobody would surprise me finishing like second, third, or fourth in this field, Ed. And Sainthood is definitely feeling good coming into the race.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're really hard to make a case for a throw out underneath, especially. One thing that might help you make those fine line decisions, though, is the post position draw. It's presented by Ford. It's at 10:45, and it's streaming on the same place you're watching us right now. Kentucky Derby, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We'll have interviews. We'll have the pill pool insight from Joe Christofek and Scott Shapiro. I'm looking forward to speaking with some of the participants, and we know no one wants the rail, Scott.
No one wants the rail, and depending on your running style, the far outside is probably not ideal either. But I think this year it's going to be a pretty important draw. It always is somewhat important, but not knowing who's going to be on the lead, where these horses draw, may dictate the early pace.
All right, looking forward to talking with you about that after the draw. We do have several social media questions. I'm going to get to one because it's one of my favorites to answer. Max on Facebook wants to know, if you owned a horse that was good enough for the Derby, who's your go-to jockey? We all know mine is Julian Leparoux, especially if I had a front-end rider. We saw him get the job done in a maiden race on opening night, going a mile and a quarter. I'd love to see Julian have the lead at the quarter pole on a Derby horse. I think he can get him home that final stretch. Who would your go-to be?
Wow, that's a tough question. For me, it would depend on running styles. If it's a closer, I really love Joel Rosario. He finishes as well as anybody. He's got the win with Orb. Front runner, that's a good question. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I mean, a front runner, you know, I think, you know, one thing about the Derby is there's not a lot of riders in the field that have won it before. I do think these young riders like Irad Ortiz Jr., who's going to be on Known Agenda, is one of the most talented riders in the game. He's good with all styles. I'm not worried about like a jock like him not having won. I think he's going to break through eventually. He would be up there near the top of my list, Scott, Irad Ortiz Jr.
All right, well, always an interesting question. Who would you ride? And, of course, some musical jockeys this year, Scott. So even when you have a Derby horse, people are still making decisions up until the race.
Yeah, I mean, Hot Rod Charlie, a winner of the Twin Spires Louisiana Derby, not going to have the same rider. So that speaks exactly to your point.
Rock Your World in the same boat as well. Well, that'll do it for the first segment. But when we come back, we'll talk about the Oaks Field being set. And then it's training at 7:30. Join us then.
The 147th Kentucky Derby is almost here, and Twin Spires players can take advantage of our Kentucky Derby money-back offer all week long. Place a win bet on any Churchill Downs race during Derby week, including Saturday's Run for the Roses, and if your horse finishes second or third, you'll get your money back. Plus, if you are looking for help to find a winner or two, check out our expert picks available on the app for every race. Twin Spires, bet dedicated.
One moment, you're up in the sky. And the next, you're in a free fall, 10,000 feet above the ocean. You have 30 seconds between you and the water's surface. And it's these 30 seconds that define who you are. Because how we face the fall is what separates the pioneer spirit from the rest. This is your legacy.
Back at Churchill Downs, 5 days until the Kentucky Derby, 4 until the Kentucky Oaks. It's the morning workouts presented by TwinSpires.com. And again, can't say it enough, the glorious morning here, sunny, mid-60s, light breeze. The sun is up, the tractors are out. Soon the horses will be too, as we rejoin you beneath the Twin Spires. And again, 4 days until the Kentucky Oaks. We'll draw the Derby today. The Oaks was yesterday, and it was a full field for the Longines Kentucky Oaks Mountain and 8th on the main track. And Scott, full field and a very competitive one at that.
Yeah, maybe more competitive than the morning line even suggests. But what was most notable to me is that travel column draws right inside of Ava's Grace. I know Brad Cox didn't seem concerned about it. And if she's good enough, she'll be able to win. But drawing inside the other speed instead of outside like she has in her two most recent races in New Orleans is a bit concerning. Maybe those two can get caught up in an early duel to set up some runners from off the pace.
We're going to see Malatot in a moment, but I have to say, there's several 50-1 horses on there that I don't think are impossible.
No, I know you're a little bit like into coach at a price. I think some of the 15 and 20-1 shots you see Milfoy there have a shot to win the race, let alone hit the board.
A very competitive group indeed, and a part of that Oaks Derby double. And if we get the expected full field in the Derby, 280 possible combinations. You think on a normal day of racing, even if you have 10 horse fields, it's only 100. What a bet.
Yeah, and I'm going to be looking to tag up a couple Todd Pletcher runners in my Derby double. More of that to come tomorrow.
All right, and speaking of Todd Pletcher runners in the Oaks Derby double, here is his Oaks favorite, Malatot, and looking good on the track, I would say, James. Certainly going to be looking good in my tickets. This is absolutely my Oaks pick. I would be thrilled with 5-2. I think she's a budding superstar. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she looks great. I mean, very athletic, looks happy, and really reserved. And I think that her race in the Ashland, I was just impressed with it because, Ed, it was her first start of the year. I thought she was too far off the pace at the top of the stretch, and she got up in time to win. That's a race where I think she'll continue to move forward, ideally from. And her pedigree, I mean, being by Kerwin, out of Dreaming of Julia, who's a Grade 1 winner, was the favorite, actually, in the 2013 Kentucky Oaks for Todd Pletcher, and she ran third behind Princess of Silmar, who won for Pletcher, and Beholder was second.
And Princess of Silmar, a big price that day in the Kentucky Oaks, one of 3 winners for Todd Pletcher. And Scott, I'm glad James mentioned the pace in the Ashland. Malatot somehow got there in the short stretch, running down past the Champagne. Travel column, though, might be a tougher foe to run down even at a mile and an eighth.
Yeah, and that's no disrespect to past the Champagne, who's done virtually nothing wrong. That was her first start, going 2 turns. I think everything suggests that Malatot is set for a career best effort.
And here is Travel Column on the track in her final workout for the Oaks, 5 furlongs in 1 minute and 2. And James, Scott alluded to Travel Column being right there with Ava's Grace in the starting gate. I wouldn't expect her to be on the lead, but Florent probably just going to make a decision based on how things shape up early.
Yeah, if Ava's Grace wants to lead, Florent will let her go. But if she's not gunning hard from the gate, I wouldn't be surprised to see him take it. He's aggressive. He'll put her in a good spot. She loves the track. She won the Goldenrod from off the pace. Travel Column did, but she has good tactical speed. I expect her to get a good trip on the front end of the Kentucky Oaks, Ed.
We mentioned it several times throughout the broadcast. Many trainers in this year's Oaks and Derby fields with the chance to be the first to sweep both races since 1952. Brad Cox probably as good a chance as any with the second choice in the Oaks and the likely favorite in the Derby. Here he is talking about Travel Column.
Come down to look like the 3 or the 6 there late, and I thought the 6 made more sense. But you know, she can perform from anywhere. I feel she's that talented, and I like the race she ran at the fairgrounds, setting off a couple. You know, just stalking, nice close stalking trip. What we would prefer. Most all of our horses that are competing at a high level, they have some type of experience here at Churchill, which you know, could a little bit of a home field advantage. So you know, it can never be a bad thing. She would need to move forward again. She moved forward last time in the fantasy. That's why we're here on Friday. You know, if we can get a similar move forward, which, you know, it's a big ask, but if there is another move forward, you know, she'll be in contention late. She tries. She's very hard trying filly. She gives you everything she has. So, you know, like I said, we need another move forward, and if she gives it, she can be in the mix.
All right, thank you, Brad. 2x2 to sweep that Oaks Derby double. Travel Column and Coach go Friday. Another one in the Oaks got search results. Another undefeated filly in the Oaks is search results. And this field's so competitive. Amazingly, I feel like a Chad Brown trained undefeated filly who won the Gazelle kind of being overlooked in some ways.
Yeah, very fast running of the Gazelle, faster than the Wood Memorial that day. And I think she drew perfectly. I thought she was coming in under the radar. The morning line set by oddsmaker Mike Battaglia at 3-1 suggests that I was wrong. But she got a perfect trip here. We're watching the Gazelle off of an early pace setter and had plenty left in the lane, although on the wrong lead there for a little while. But holding off Maracuja, who's also in the Kentucky Oaks, but search results comes in with a perfect resume.
James, we've talked a lot of Derby, obviously, some Oaks. I'm not too familiar with where you're leaning in the Oaks, but search results for Chad Brown, I have to think, even if you're not on board, needs to be respected.
Yeah, I mean, she's not going to be my top pick, but I definitely respect her for the top 3. I mean, she's 3 for 3 in her career. Scott talked about, I liked her race last time in the Gazelle, other than being on the wrong lead. Chad Brown seeking his first win in the Kentucky Oaks with search results.
As we go down the list of Oaks 100-point winners, Crazy Beautiful is on it. And again, Scott, just an illustration of how competitive this race is. Kenny McPeak won the Gulfstream Park Oaks with Swiss Skydiver last year. Ended up with the, I believe was favored in the Kentucky Oaks. And now he's here with Crazy Beautiful, and she's going to be double-digit odds.
Yeah, 15-1 on the morning line. If she's anywhere near that price, she may not be my top pick or most likely winner, but she might be the most attractive horse to wager on. She comes in, third start of the form cycle. I didn't think the Gulfstream Park Oaks was a great race going in, but coming out of it, I felt much better about it. Kenny McPeak talked about her late running style. She used to be more of a mid-pack type.
And she certainly is striking a lot of grays in this year's Oaks and Derby fields, a lot of good pedigrees. As Joe Christofek has talked about, we have another social media question, and James, this one's good for you, especially I know you working with our colleague Kelly Riley. This stuff comes up a bunch. Tracy on Facebook wants to know who the most expensive and least expensive horses are in this year's Derby field.
Well, I believe the most expensive horse in this year's Derby field is Dynamic One, $710,000. I'm not sure at auction. I'm not sure the lowest one. We have a couple.
I would have to guess Medina Spirit.
Well, Medina Spirit was $35,000. Yeah, he might be the lowest one, a Florida bred. We have 17 Kentucky breds this year in the 20-horse Kentucky Derby field. We have 2 Florida breds, Medina Spirit and Stupid Sandwich, and 1 New York bred, Brooklyn Strong. Top 4 choices in the morning line figure to be all Kentucky bred, Ed.
And in the Oaks, Malatot, I believe, was $1 million yearling, one of those fantastic pedigrees. When we come back, the 7:30 training hour begins as Past the Champagne eagerly awaits a trip around the main track at Churchill Downs. We'll be right back.
The 147th Kentucky Derby is almost here, and Twin Spires players can take advantage of our Kentucky Derby money-back offer all week long. Place a win bet on any Churchill Downs race during Derby week, including Saturday's Run for the Roses, and if your horse finishes second or third, you'll get your money back. Plus, if you are looking for help to find a winner or two, check out our expert picks available on the app for every race. Twin Spires, bet dedicated.
With over 200 flavor notes to discover, every sip of Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
Cloud computing outside. Classic Empire head-to-head down the line. Cloud computing wins the Preakness.
We're back at Churchill Downs, where the morning training for the Derby and Oaks starters is just about ready to begin, and we're taking a look at Past the Champagne, who turning for home in the Ashland. Scott, looked like she might be an upset winner.
Yeah, that was a very, very good effort at face value, but then when you take into account it was the first start at 2 turns, first start against winners, and of course first start against grade 1 competition. Past the Champagne, another one that's at the 15-to-1 price, much like Crazy Beautiful. That's definitely worth consideration.
And there's the bottom half of the silver-haired quipster with the golden touch. Bob Baffert looking for his record 7th Kentucky Derby this year with Medina Spirit, toting the Starbucks cup, looking very much like the trainer Jason Beam parodied in his video.
Yeah, Medina Spirit. It's going to be interesting to see the tactics of Johnny V, who was on the lead and got the job done with Authentic last year in the Derby, but they got beat to the punch by Rock Your World in the Santa Anita Derby and couldn't get by. I would not be surprised if they're aggressive from the gate to try to turn the tables.
Yeah, definitely a part of that pace question under Johnny V with Medina Spirit, and trying to guess who's who with it being a gray. And we know Essential Quality was already out this morning. James, any idea who that is?
It could be Soup at Sandwich. If it's a gray, yeah, it might be Soup at Sandwich. I think
there looks like a big C on the bottom half of the saddle pad there, but.
And I'll just add about Medina Spirit, just to clean up that social media question. He was the least expensive purchase in the field, $35,000. Bob Baffert, 33 starts, 6 wins, 3 seconds, 3 thirds, Hall of Fame trainer. 36% of his starters have finished in the top 3 in the Kentucky Derby. That's a staggering rate in this era, Ed.
Is that good, Ed?
It's not too bad. And Medina Spirit, $35,000 was the most recent sale price. That was actually a flip on a $1,000 yearling purchase. So Gary Young definitely scooped that one out. Well done. I'm sure he's very excited. Here's Hot Rod Charlie. Talked about his first day on the track yesterday, getting a second spin today from the Doug O'Neill barn. And one of those pace enigmas, Scott, gate to wire in the Louisiana Derby. Impossible to think that's the way he would win this one, though.
Yeah, whether it's by choice or just he's not fast enough to get to the lead, maybe a combination of the two. Flavien Prat, a great rider. We talked about how he's got the Derby win with Country House back in 2019. He's not a very aggressive rider. He's got very good hands. He can get horses to relax. He'll take the call for the second time, but he rode this horse on the turf the first time last year at Del Mar.
James, Hot Rod Charlie got a big call in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile before Essential Quality finally collared him. Keep Me in Mind shows up in here as well, the Juvenile trifecta in the Derby. It's a big reason I actually like Keep Me in Mind a little bit at a big price to crash the exotics. Certainly come back as a key race.
It did. Keep Me in Mind had all that 2-year-old class. He had run second in the Breeders' Futurity Grade 1 race before that, but he just didn't move on this year. Hot Rod Charlie, he added blinkers 4 starts back, broke his maiden, then ran second in the Breeders' Cup, rallied for mid-pack that day, but he's been able to stay a little bit closer in both starts this year with blinkers on. Expect him to be a little forward in the Derby with Flavien Prat.
Johnny G on YouTube, Scott wanted to know who we're peppering into the try and super spots at a price. I've already hinted at Keep Me in Mind, Bezos for sure. My other one of the two I'm definitely using underneath. How about you?
I might try to pepper a price into the first spot, but so I'm gonna. In that case, I would recommend Dynamic One. I'm gonna be definitely gonna be a key horse for me. We'll put it at that at the moment. A horse that I think is going to get ignored to an extent, mostly because he was run down by Bourbonic and only has 1 win coming into the Derby. But I'm very high on him, and I don't know. That's a good question in terms. Bezos, another one. King Fury, still have some sorting to do, especially once the draw is done.
How about you, James?
Yeah, Midnight Bourbon is definitely, if that horse is 15-1, he's my value, my long shot pick. If he gets bet down a little bit, I do like King Fury, the way he's training. I think he's going to run a good race, and he's going to be double-digit odds as well.
Taking a look at Hot Rod Charlie on the track now, and we had that question from Tracy about the least expensive horses. This one sold for $105,000 eventually, but was a $17,000 purchase by the Feld family. Another great eye with Bob and Sean Feld there, and they were able to get a good price. And always agonizing when you know you have a good one, whether you sell or keep. But as people say, taking a profit always pays the bills.
Yeah, part of the game, I think. You want your horses to succeed for sure, even if you sell them, and it definitely will lead to further business. But got to be, a little bittersweet.
And being around the game, part of Derby is a lot of fun knowing people have connections to certain horses, cheering on your friends, etc. And James, growing up in Lexington and being in a family that dealt bloodstock, I'm sure you've had some experiences with family and friends being at the Derby.
Oh, yeah. My first Derby was 1981, so I was 11 years old, or 12 years old. And, but growing up around horses, you just can't beat it. You get on the backstretch, the smells, the sights, the horses get in your blood, and just easy to love and appreciate, and love being out of the racetrack around them, Ed.
All right, for me, I think seeing a teller count out a bunch of hundreds after hitting a race gets in my blood. Scott, I know you appreciate that too.
Yeah, like you, I didn't grow up around horses. I grew up through the game, through going to the racetrack as a kid, loving the analytical puzzle that's handicapping, and it's led me to, appreciating the other parts of the game, but definitely looking to make some money when I come to the racetrack.
But nothing like seeing these horses on the track, especially in a morning like this, is Hot Rod Charlie just getting an easy go of it here, James. Looks like they're just letting him stretch his legs a little bit.
Yeah, just a light jog so far, Ed. Not really going to let him do too much again. It looks like going around the track the first time right now. Who knows? He might do another lap. But, he's fit. He's worked back-to-back 6 furlong works. So Doug O'Neill, I'm sure, has him all tight and, just wants to let him stretch his legs a little bit this morning. He'll continue to be out here on the track jogging and galloping in the days to come, too.
On the track now, doing a little bit more, it looks like, is Santa Anita Derby winner Rock Your World for trainer John Sadler. And both these horses have a lot in common, both from Southern California. Both had jockey changes after a win in their final prep, Scott.
Yes, and both are in that second tier of horses likely to take quite a bit of support. Essential Quality likely to be the clear-cut favorite, not odds on or anything close to that, but I think Rock Your World and Hot Rod Charlie could be second or third choice, but if not, maybe fourth or fifth. And there you see Rock Your World. We talked about some pricey purchases. This one was a $650,000 Son of Candy ride out of the Empire Maker Dam Charm, the maker, a very productive runner in her own right. And Rock Your World has done nothing wrong so far, a perfect 3 for 3.
Absolutely. James, what are you seeing from up top as he gets a wide trip around the far?
He looks fantastic. It's just big and strong and well within himself, got his head bowed, and looks happy and content right now, Ed.
And there we see Bob Baffert. That's an easy one to spot thanks to the saddle towel Medina Spirit for him, another one of the California horses who shipped in this weekend. Bargain buy for these connections, and he's one that wouldn't shock if he ends up on the lead, James.
No, he wouldn't. And John Velasquez went wire to wire last year with Authentic, 2-time Kentucky Derby winner. If you look at the pace numbers, like the Brisnet pace ratings or any kind of pace numbers, his numbers stack up well. He could easily be a set show in the way early if he catches a break from the gate. And that might be his best chance. I think Scott had talked about it yesterday. He really hasn't shown the ability to pass horses in the lane. Both he and Midnight Bourbon haven't done that yet. But if they're in front turning for home, they won't have to pass anybody, Ed.
Scott, you talked about 2-year-old form and improvement into 3 with Hot Rod Charlie. What about Medina Spirit?
Just have not seen that development, which is a little bit concerning. He's essentially run the same race every time out. Hasn't passed horses. That's why, to me, I would expect them to be aggressive. The more you analyze the pace. Obviously, the post position will come into play there as Johnny V and Baffert look to win back-to-back derbies for the first time since 1972 and 1973. Ron Turcotte and Lucien Loren.
More amazing company that Bob Baffert would join. If he were able to do that, he'd be the record-winning trainer and then first to go back-to-back in, 49 years?
It's 48 or 49. It's right before, not giving my age out, but right before I was born.
Just before your time. Sounds like James was about 3 as we continue the work. So blinkers has been a popular equipment discussion, James. And Kelly on Facebook wanted to know why a trainer would use them or go back and forth. Diodoro said they're taking them off. Keep me in mind. Known agenda, they seem to have made a big difference for that Pletcher trainee. Can you explain blinkers for Kelly on Facebook?
Yeah, there's multiple reasons, but one of them for sure is just to keep the horses more focused. I mean, they can be like all distracted and paying attention to lots of stuff around. You put those cups on, they keep them more focused on what's going on around them. And especially with a horse like Known Agenda, they ran him in 2 stakes without blinkers, Ed, and he was way back at the back of the field, left himself too much to do. When they put blinkers on, he was able to race closer early in 2 races and won them both convincingly. So, just like puts the horse more in the race sometimes and keeps them more focused throughout.
And we see King Fury there, and it's interesting. Kenny McPeak tried blinkers just once, and that was the last start of 2020 for them, his 2-year-old campaign in the Kentucky Jockey Club. And Kenny mentioned yesterday when you interviewed him, Ed, he was got a little sour on him, he said, towards the end of the year. He regrouped and has bounced back well.
He has bounced back with a win in the Lexington Stakes just 2.5 weeks ago in his first start as a 3-year-old. I know he's turned some heads in the morning, and don't want to give anything away yet, but big chance that this is my Kentucky Derby pick. Highly motivated, runner-up in the Bluegrass, 3rd in the Gotham. Lacking that signature win, Scott, but certainly for both Chad Brown and highly motivated, the Derby would be it.
Yeah, the good magic. Chad Brown's best finish a couple years back, 2018, running 2nd. Highly motivated, absolutely fits on numbers. He's rattled off 3 consecutive 102 Brisnet speed ratings. He fits on the Thorograph sheets. Couple concerns. One, he's not going to be on the lead, or very unlikely to be on the lead like he was in his first start, going 2 turns in the Bluegrass. And just an overall concern about him getting the 1.25 miles. For some reason, he just strikes me and others as a horse that may end up being a miler or something of that nature.
I think he's on the lead the quarter, maybe even the 8th pole, James, and we'll see what happens from there. What do you think of highly motivated?
Yeah, I think he's going to be in the mix, turning for home as well in the Derby. As long as he doesn't find himself behind horses in traffic in the early going, as long as he can get out there and get a decent position with Javier Castellano, I think highly motivated is very sharp, very in good form right now, and he's going to run his race. Whether or not he can get that final 1/4 mile, 1/8 of a mile remains to be determined, but he should be in the mix, I think, at the top of the stretch. Looks like he's coming into the race great, Ed.
It's interesting because that trip that you guys are speaking of has been a winning trip in the Kentucky Derby often. I kind of see Mandaloon getting that trip this year the way he's been training, and both of them are similar. They have a little bit of distance concerns, but come into the race in top form.
Taking a look at Tampa Bay Derby winner Helium, and 1 of 2 for Mark Casse, the other being Soup and Sandwich. And Scott, I asked Mark if he's heard every pun by now with Helium, and he said he has. So we'll spare him the jokes here. But 8-week layoff, I certainly think up against it, even with my favorite jockey up.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned it a couple times. Talk a little bit about why that Tampa Bay Derby is a concern and not a key race for you.
The 8 weeks off into the Kentucky Derby is definitely, in my mind, too much. There's certain rules, for lack of a better term, that seem to do well in the Derby, and those long layoffs would be breaking the rules. And then the other thing is the Tampa Bay Derby just 1 mile and a 16th, whereas all these other horses coming out of races that were at least 1 mile and an 1/8, that seems to hold true too. So you factor the long layoff and the prep less than 1 mile and an 1/8, and it's just a fade for me.
Yeah, Street Sense, the last one to win the Tampa Bay Derby and win the Kentucky Derby, but he had another prep after the race. I'm sure you would have liked to have seen that for this runner as well.
Yeah, I'd love to think Julian's in with a big chance. And Mark, too, one of several looking for their first Derby win, and he's knocked on the door before, and he's knocking on it here with Helium and Soup and Sandwich. Certainly every right to be a good horse going forward, James, but that 8-week layoff, just too tall a task in my mind.
Yeah, that plus the fact he only has 3 starts for Helium. The Tampa Bay Derby was his first race since mid-October. If he'd had a couple races under him, or at least one before that race this year, then I think it would be a different story. But coming back off a rest after coming off of a layoff for that race, it just seems like if he could come out of the race in good shape, he's got a good rest of the year in front of him. But it is a little risky being so inexperienced and coming off a layoff into the Derby.
Highly motivated was joined by his stablemate on the track, Oaks entrant. Search results, she's undefeated, Scott. She's from the Chad Brown barn, and she should be in the mix turning for home.
Yeah, $310,000 Keeneland September 2019 purchase, a perfect 3 for 3. I thought, there wasn't any major winners and losers in the Kentucky Oaks draw yesterday, but if I had to point to, a winner of some sort, I would have pointed a little bit to Search Results, who draws favorably to the outside. She's got that tactical foot, probably not fast enough to be on the lead, but I would suspect Irad Ortiz Jr. will not be too far off it and can get a good trip from that outside draw.
Yeah, James, undefeated winner of the Gazelle, and as I kind of said earlier, a little bit, she's 3-1 second choice on the morning line, so tough to say forgotten, but in terms of her credentials, not really getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah, and I think she's going to drift up a little bit from that, Ed. And I think Search Results will get a good trip. That's an advantage for her. Some of her main rivals, Mouthat, Clairiere, Crazy Beautiful, all off the pace types. Might not have a lot of pace in the Oaks. Search Results, she's going to have to take another step forward. I don't think she was beating those good of horses in New York this year. But, she looks like a real promising type that does have more to offer. And she could trip out at Ascension, be in the right spot and upper stretch on Friday.
Speaking of needing to take a step forward, undoubtedly competitive speed. Will need to improve to be competitive in the Oaks, but I believe gets Chris Landero, so always good to see a local with a shot, Scott, but improvement absolutely necessary.
Yeah, it'll also be Chris's first try on this horse that's been ridden by Leonel Reyes throughout her career so far. She looks to me more like a one-turn type. She did run third to Crazy Beautiful and Milfoy in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, but it was a non-threatening third in a race that favored off the pace types. It would be a pretty big surprise for me if she hit the board, and obviously Mike Battaglia, the odds maker, agreed, making her 50-1.
Yeah, he had several on there at 50. I would say this one probably most likely for that price, and we've never had a 50-1 winner of the Oaks, the highest price being Lemons Forever back in 2006 at 47-1. As some horses are finishing up, Soup and Sandwich still getting a little bit of a stroll on the outer rail there, James, and one of several with limited starts is Soup and Sandwich from the Cassie barn.
He's a lightly raced horse by End of Mischief out of a Tappet mare, Soup and Sandwich. Looks like he's got a really bright future for his connections. My main concern with him was he was a little green when he won his second start at Tampa Bay. He was all in and out a little bit in the stretch. And then last time in the Florida Derby, he didn't switch leads. But I like the speed he showed in that race that day. He'll get a new jockey as well in the Derby. And I just expect him to, if he could get the right trip up close, he could perhaps hold on for a share, but just a little bit worried it'd be too much too soon for Soup and Sandwich, Ed.
Tyler Gaffleone getting the call there, and it's still a little hard to think of him as a Churchill guy, even though he was here all year. But South Florida, how Tyler came up, but he knows his way around Churchill as well as anyone now, and is a local jock. Certainly an upgrade on Soup and Sandwich in my mind. Back to the Oaks for Bill Mott, who unbelievably has not won this race yet, Scott. But Milfew, if she can improve, could be dangerous.
Yeah, third start off the layoff, and she ran a good second last time out in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Crazy Beautiful came from last to first to run her down pretty easily in that race, but the pedigree suggests that distance shouldn't be an issue. She gets Joel Rosario, who rode her in her first 3 starts in New York, but did not ride her at Gulfstream Park in her 2 most recent starts. I think the outside post should be favorable as long as Joel's able to avoid a wide trip, obviously, into that first turn.
James, I'm going to ask you a question so I can try to say this name correctly again. Milfoy.
You got it.
I got it. All right. James, what do you think?
I think her form is solid. She appears to be training forwardly for Belmont, but this is a top-heavy Oaks, in my opinion, and she's going to have to take a step forward in order to challenge against these fillies. But, I like her. I like her as a prospect as well, but I think she might be in a little bit tough on Friday, Ed.
Yeah, that outside post, I wouldn't say a handicap per se, but maybe not ideal. I know Justin Dew very, very high on this horse. I tried to get him to do a head-to-head with Malatot, but he wasn't biting Scott, and I don't blame him.
Man that's not afraid to make his opinion, but Joel Rosario, I'm hoping is able, because I think this horse is usable very much underneath, and I'm hoping that he's able to navigate a trip from that outside draw. Not as concerned as you.
When I looked at after her first start as a 3-year-old, I kind of had shades of Royal Delta in my mind, where she lost her first start, and Bill Mott ended up pointing her to the Black Eyed Susan on Preakness Day. She missed the Oaks, but Milfoy does show up here, which I see as a vote of confidence from him. One of many in a very competitive Oaks, and the Derby no slouch either, as we see Soup and Sandwich exiting in front of, I'm guessing, Helium based on the similar cap color there and heading to the same place. Mark Casse won several with a couple bullets in the Derby.
They may be from the same stable, but other than that, not too much similar. Their running styles are different. I guess the fact that they both come in with limited experience and will be big prices is also similar.
And Mark Casse was very clear when I asked him yesterday. He does not want posts 1, 2, or 3 for either of his horses. We're going to find out if that happens or not with the post draw. As we zoom out from that forward sign, they're a proud sponsor of that draw. That's at 10:45. Everyone seems to say they don't want the rail, but who would you say the draw is most essential for?
That's a good question that I haven't thought of. I mean, these tactical speed horses, which are a lot of them, we've talked about it. From Soup and Sandwich to Medina Spirit to Highly Motivated to even Rock Your World and Hot Rod Charlie. I would think all of them would prefer to be middle towards the outside, maybe not 20, but if they're inside, it's going to force their hands. If you're on the outside, I've talked about it before, as have others, you have a chance to get out of the gate, see where your competition is, look to your left, and make a decision from there. If you're along the inside, you just don't have those options.
I agree completely. I would think, especially like for essential quality or highly motivated, the rail would really be an ouch. And again, that post draw is at 10:45, and there is Bob Baffert looking for his record 7th win. James, what do you think's in that cup?
I bet it's some tea. That would be my guess. Some
tea. That's
yeah.
He looks
and
nervous.
I'll just say this about the post draw. I would like to see like these dead closers like Bourbonic, Keep Me in Mind, Obesos draw like 1, 2, 3. So none of these horses have any excuses that have some tactical foot and don't want to be in there.
We have a great offer all Derby week. Scott noted when we talked to Robertino, there is racing today on Champions Day. And this money back offer, Scott, goes all week long, all races. I think it's one of the best offers we've ever had.
I agree. Not only do you have all of the races to choose from, sometimes we've had limited races, but not only do you get the money back for second, but also third. So plenty of options. And I think it's a great chance, Ed, to maybe take some chances with some horses that you think can hit the board and maybe win, because you get your money back if they don't, and you can really stack that money if they do.
That's right. And Derby included, Oaks, all the stakes, all the races starting today. Opt in at twinspires.com/offers for that offer. And believe might be lining up an interview hopefully soon, but as you see people lined up on the rail here at Churchill Downs, it's been great to have people back. Opening night was a lot of fun. The good times keep rolling today with Champions Day.
Yeah, really what didn't hit me until I got here that day, how much of it, I thought about it, and we've all thought about the different energy, but it really was an additional energy boost on opening night, and I expect it to be just that the rest of this week.
No, and today seems like a fantastic day to come out. Very easy to socially distance when it's sunny in the 70s. The grandstand area open. People can really enjoy live racing. It's so good to be back here at Churchill Downs, and good to have you back on set here, Scott, and good to have back at Churchill on the backside two-time Derby winning trainer Doug O'Neill. Doug, really appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks for having me, you guys.
Does it ever get old coming back here even after winning too?
Absolutely never gets old. Louisville this week is just awesome, and it's awesome all year long, but I'm just here this week when we got a runner. But no, it's incredible vibes, and you look out at the Twin Spires and just it's hard not to get fired up.
Doug, you have Hot Rod Charlie in here, Louisiana Derby winner, and the draw is today. How's he taken to the main track here, and where are you hoping to draw this morning?
He's doing really well. We're so proud of him, and he's shipped to out of town from California to Kentucky last year, and then from California to Louisiana this year. So he's shown that he's a good shipper, which is a great sign, and he's settled in great here. And as far as the post goes, I think you can get a good trip or a bad trip from any post number. So ideally we'd rather be towards the outside, but wherever we draw, we're blessed to be in the gate, and we're optimistic.
Doug, Scott Shapiro, thanks for joining us. I know a lot of us were surprised that Hot Rod Charlie found himself on the lead in the Twin Spires Louisiana Derby in late March. Were you surprised, or was that part of the game plan?
You know, Joel, who's just a phenomenal rider, he had called me that morning and said, you know, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of speed in here. Do you mind if I send him away from there and just play it by ear? And how would you ever, a fat trainer, tell a top jockey what to do, right? So, but that just shows you how good he is, and so that was great. And unfortunately, he's not riding us in here, but we got another unbelievable rider in Flavian Pratt, who's a brilliant kid and always really zeroed in, and he's been working them every week. So as far as the pace goes, Flavian's like Joel, he'll break good, hopefully, right, and just play the pace.
Yeah, Doug O'Neill, I was going to ask you about the, you will talk strategy with Flavin before the race. And I also wanted to ask you, back-to-back 6 furlong works for Hot Rod Charlie, was your rationale behind that and how he came out of those works?
Good. You know, going a mile and a quarter, my mindset is just wanting the most relaxed horse mentally as we can get him. So trying not to put the edge on him. And a lot of times these longer works kind of help not only build and keep their stamina up, but it keeps them mentally, takes the edge off a little bit too. So that was kind of the mindset, and so far so good.
Doug, this is a game impossible not to make comparisons. You've won this race twice with Olive Another and Nyquist. Any thoughts on how Hot Rod Charlie, who he reminds you of more of your 2 Derby winners?
I'd say a little bit more of I'll Have Another, just because Nyquist was so precocious and a little bit more hot-blooded than the other 2. So I would say, you know, they're all individuals, but I would say Hot Rod probably reminds me a little bit of more of I'll Have Another, and hopefully we get a similar result as I'll Have Another.
Doug, you raced Hot Rod Charlie on the turf in his 2nd and 3rd starts. Was that experimental, or in the end, did you think he was going to be a turf horse, or you know, was the plan always to move him back to the dirt?
You know, I think it's so important with these horses for the connections and the horse to get on the same page, and I think I just wasn't really on the same page with Charlie, and those probably weren't the greatest decisions on my part the first 3 starts. But once we stretched him out, added the blinkers, you know, we got to see the true ability that he was showing us in the morning. So him being a half brother to Matoli, I did have in the back of my mind that maybe he'd be a tremendous one-turn horse, but just seeing his physique and the way he acts and everything, the 2 turns should have been more obvious to me early. But as we speak, we're on the same page and doing really well.
Doug, can you take us through this morning? Looked like a pretty quiet, just kind of stroll around the main track. Didn't want him to do too much today.
Yeah, you know, he had a really good 3/4 work, like you said a couple of days ago at Santa Anita. So that was kind of my final piece of strong work with him. So the game plan was just to bring him in here, have him settled in, and he jogged yesterday again. Like you said, he jogged again today. Tomorrow, if all goes well, he'll visit the paddock, visit the gate crew, and gallop. So yeah, he's settled in, happy, and so far, and the weather's been unbelievable. So everyone's been able to train however they want, and so we're real excited.
All right, Doug. Well, we'll let you go on that. Really appreciate your time. Best of luck going for number 3, and congratulations as well on your Racing Hall of Fame nomination.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Good luck,
All right,
Doug.
Doug O'Neill, everyone, looking for his 3rd Kentucky Derby win. He'll try to do it with Louisiana Derby winner Hot Rod Charlie, and Scott, 3 Derby wins, rare company.
Yeah, I got to spend some time with Doug O'Neill when I was out there in Southern California. Talked a lot about I'll Have Another with him in an interview, but always a very good guy to interview, very open book, and wish him a lot of luck on Saturday.
Family affair with his stable as well. Dennis very involved, and some loyal owners in that barn. James, going for 3 with Hot Rod Charlie. Big ask as always to win any one of these. So 3 certainly would be a Hall of Fame credential.
Yeah, I think so, without a doubt. I mean, he would be 3 for 7 if Hot Rod Charlie wins. Hot Rod Charlie travels with Lava Man, multi-million-dollar, multi-grade 1 winning gelding. That is the pony. Ponied, I'll Have Another. Ponied Nyquist. Now pony and Hot Rod Charlie. And Doug O'Neill doesn't have a horse in the Derby like every year, Ed. This is his first starter since 2017. He comes here typically with horses that have a chance.
I'm getting a look at Bourbonic there, who pulled his rider like they just announced last call, Scott.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry. What do you expect? Speaking of Bourbonic, you've done a lot of the work on the morning line odds or in your fair odds. What price do you expect him to go off after winning at 72-1 last time out?
I have him at 40. It's just hard to see that a Pletcher is going to be among the longer shots. I just can't imagine him taking more money than that. Kendrick is a storyline, so that maybe brings some buzz to him as well. And obviously the name is going to attract some attention in the types of pools that get that attention, Win being one of them. So I have him at 40. Fair odds probably a bit higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a little bit interesting, or more than a little bit, to see which Todd Pletcher runners take which kind of money. Known agenda, almost certain to go off the lowest price of them. And the Todd Pletcher fans might spread their money around, but I would suspect him or Sainthood to be about the same price.
No, I don't think so.
What do you got?
I would say Sainthood a little longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll add one thing, guys. The last two times we've had two solid favorites, Justify, and then in 2004 with Bellamy Road, 20-horse fields. Both races had 7 horses, 50-1 or higher. So if Essential Quality gets bet way down, we are going to have some long shots.
I'm still taking under on that, James. We got to figure it out. Well, we can't do the Waffle House tab because it'll be Saturday morning. Expert Picks is one of the things you can find at Twin Spires. So after you opt in to that money back offer, Scott, you can take a look at the picks. Mine are up for all day today at Churchill. You were doing Oak Lawn before you joined us on the desk here, but lots of great information.
Yeah, and quick and to the point, which is great. I know a lot of people like that, whether you want to use them to just watch the picks, bet them directly, or maybe in races where you're playing a pick 4 or pick 5, you've got a horse or two you really like, then you're looking to spread, and you want to make sure you don't leave out horses that have good reasons maybe at a price.
And the way to put those picks into action is through wagering, and there are plenty of great Oaks and Derby Day wagers, Scott. That Oaks Derby double, the pick 3 that folds in the Old Forester Bourbon Turf Classic. We got the $2 2-day pick 6. Tons of great options all day long, vertically and horizontally both days.
Yes, and me, the pick 5 player that I am, I see 4 50-cent pick 5s, 15% takeout. Licking my chops.
Dollar Superfecta as well, James. I know that's a bet you've hit for some good money through the years.
That's right, Ed. I'm definitely always excited to play those multi-race wagers. Lots of opportunity for prices on big fields on Derby Day, hopefully.
James, this is your last show on the works. We'll certainly see you throughout the week handicapping the races at Churchill Downs, but it's been a pleasure having you on. And what have been your final impressions of what you've seen in the morning?
I'll tell you, Ed, I mean, it just remains like a little bit of a handicapping puzzle. I have some opinions. I've seen some horses that have impressed me, but really too many negative takeaways based on the works. It was a glorious couple mornings up here on the 4th floor. Really enjoyed it. Look forward to talking to you guys in the afternoon during the races at Churchill Downs. Thanks.
All right, James, we appreciate it. And we will have your actual Derby selections, I believe, on the closing show Thursday. Scott, tomorrow is your final show, and we'll be doing the same with your picks as well. So it's been, for me, great to have you on the desk with me. You'll lead us out tomorrow, but what have been your impressions of what we've seen the last couple days?
Yeah, it was good to see the Southern California horses, Hot Rod, Charlie, and Rock Your World. We hadn't got to see much of them. Also, search results and highly motivated. A lot of horses looking good, as you would expect, the best horses of their crop coming into the biggest races of their career.
All right, and as we said at the top, and we'll remind you now, the really final piece of the handicapping puzzle, barring any training aberrations over the next few days, is the post-position draw presented by Ford. It's at 10:45. Live, wherever you're watching this now, on streaming as well. We'll be interviewing. You'll be analyzing, Scott, and I think this is an important draw.
Yeah, it definitely is. With Caddo River defecting the almost certain speed, I think a lot of the pace is going to be decided by where certain tactical speed runners draw.
All right, that's at 10:45, and that will do it for this edition of the Twin Spires Work Show at Churchill Downs. We'll have plenty of action. Join us again tomorrow and Thursday. 2 episodes remain, 5 days remain. Kentucky Derby is coming up.